Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it's time to assemble the Gnome Dies Wedding Add-ons. Hey, so I'm using the brand new Gnome Dies Wedding Add-ons, the Girl Gnome Dies for the hands, or you could use the Gnome Dies Extra Parts 1 and the Extra Parts 2 if you're making a bunch. So first, I did use Echo Park's Wedding 12-inch solids. So I cut the base first out of American Crafts black cardstock. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't show. Then I cut the pink. The pink bell is cut from that Echo Park's Weddings, the 12-inch solid. Then I have this American Crafts black cardstock. And then I'm going to add on scrapbook.com's holographic mirror paper. It's gold, obviously. And I'm going to layer these bells on using my Barely Art glue, reverse tweezers, working on a Stampin' Up pad. All my die cutting was done with my Anna Griffin Empress machine. Okay, so next I'm going to add on the front layer of the bells. And they all line up one way. You can't really make a mistake. But I do these videos to hopefully help you guys to see where things go. And now that I have all those are done, now I'm going to add I think they're called clackers, right? The things that make the bell ring. So I'm going to add those on, and you can see by the angle at the top of each clacker where they fit. So I'm going to add those on as well. So you got some pretty gold bells. Now you can make these without the hands, but in the case of this video, I'm making them all of these layers with the hands, right? Remember, you could leave the hand layer off if you don't want to have your gnome holding them, or if you want to choose where your hands go. Or where the gnome's hands go, right? So if you want to make a wedding card just with the bells, you can leave off that layer. So first you add on your pink layer. Now you're going to put together your bow. I cut the bow out of 2 colors of pink from that Echo Park 12-inch solids called Wedding. Then you're going to add the center little, the knot of the bow. Okay. And then to assemble your little background, remember the base layer, that's the ribbon behind everything. Then you can add your little bells on. And then you'll add the top ribbon. I like to pop mine up a bit just because there's some thickness there with all the layers. So I'm using Scrapbook Adhesives foam squares. They're a little bit thinner. And then I will add that to the top of this little bells and bows and everything. Isn't that pretty? And now I'm going to pop up the 2 hands using Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And remember the hands were cut from the P13 Stamping Pad Skin Tones, which you can get over at the Jaded Blossom store. Remember, if you're not having your gnome hold these, you could skip this part, right? But isn't that cute? There it is. And then here's my bride. She could be holding the bells, right? Okay, so next I'm going to put together this little ring box. So the colored paper was cut from that same Echo Park's 12-inch solids. So I'm just going to layer those down. And then I will layer that on. Remember, I always use American Crafts black cardstock as the base. No one sees it, but that's what I tend to use. For me, it shows up really well on my white background for lining things up. Next, I have the ring. I cut the first layer out of that quartz Stardream Metallic cardstock, and then the little ring part was cut from that scrapbook.com's holographic mirror paper in gold. So you layer those 2 together and you get a little ring. Then I have this light green from that same scrapbook.com's, Echo Park's Wedding 12-inch solids. So I'm just going to add those layers to the inside. And then there's like a little kind of pillow piece that you add. And I'm going to add that down like so. And then I'm going to add in my little ring. And isn't that fun? So we've got like a little ring in a box. And then I will pop up the 2 hands using Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And then it will be set to be held by a gnome. So there they are. Oops. Trying to line it up to cover all the black. And then this little guy, you'd put it together without the arms, right? And have him holding things in front. Okay, so next I'm just putting together this little ring. So just cut it a black cardstock, you know, for the hand layer. And then that's that same holographic mirror paper in gold. And then I'll pop up my little hands. And you've got a quick little ring. So this is like a wedding band. Right? Like that. Now this is like a big gem. So I cut it out of paper, or why do I keep saying paper Trey Ink? American Crafts black cardstock. Then I cut the 2 layers of this diamond or gem out of that Stardream Metallic and quartz. I just think it looks pretty. It's nice and shimmery. And I'm just going to add on this layer. It has a few pieces. I'm just going to make sure they're all in place. Then you've got a really pretty looking gem. And then I will add on my 2 little hands as well. And you see that I do weight things down in between with an acrylic block. And then I'll pop up my 2 little hands. There, so we've got a wedding band, we've got bells, and we've got a gem so far. There are 6 things altogether that the little gnomes can hold. Okay, so now I'm going to put together this kind of engagement ring. And I cut it out of American Crafts black cardstock, and then that same holographic mirror in gold. And then the little gem was cut out of Stardream Metallic's quartz again. And then I'll pop up the 2 little hands with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals using that same P13 stamping pad skin tones. So isn't that fun? So remember, you can use these on a card without the gnomes, but there they are. Next, I'm going to put together this little bouquet of flowers. So you always start with the leaves, and that was cut from that Echo Parks 12-inch solids. Same thing with the stem. This is a darker green. So those kind of fit in together. I always start with the black base, right? Next, I cut the 3 flowers out using the same paper, but I also use the 6-inch pad with some pattern. So that one that has pattern is from the 6-inch pad. Next, I'm going to put together these little flowers. So you add your 3 little flowers. And then I did cut the centers out of that same Stardream Metallic quartz cardstock. I'm just referring to my little bouquet to the right. You'll see that I did put them together with the hands and without the hands. You know, that way you could make a wedding card without, you know, the hands, right? So now I'm going to pop up my 2 little hands with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I still have to add the centers to the flowers, but we'll get the hands in place first. And then I realize, oh, I've got to add the centers. So I'm going to stick those down with some Barely Art glue as well. I really love this Stardream Metallic cardstock. It's so pretty. It's got such a really pretty glimmer, shimmer. And there it is. Isn't that fun? Okay, so these are all of my little items. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team. The Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on these amazing products. And thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Make sure to come back and watch some more soon. Bye, everybody.